During my college vacation, I went to the seaside with my friends. It was a hot and cloudy summer night. Around 8 p.m., our destination seemed not far from home, and it also appeared very close on the map. However, as night fell, the roads became increasingly desolate. I clenched the steering wheel and watched as there was no one around me. Occasionally, the grass on the roadside swayed in the wind, making a rustling sound. The sense of silence is a bit unsettling. Is this really the correct route? My friend asked from the passenger seat, with a hint of unease in his voice. I looked at the fuel gauge and found that there was very little oil left. So, I decided to stop refueling and find a gas station to add some gas. With a slight sigh of relief in my heart, just drive for a while and you'll find the gas station. Don't worry. A few kilometers later, there was still no sign of a gas station in sight, and both sides of the road were extremely empty, with weeds covering all views. My friend began to appear, increasingly anxious. You sure we're not taking the wrong path? There really aren't any other cars here. I frowned tightly, feeling a bit confused, but didn't say much. I accelerated helplessly and tried to keep the speed within a moderate range. As driving at night can lead to fatigue, and prolonged highways can also create a sense of loss. I can feel my friend's nervousness, my eyes occasionally glancing out the window, as if even the distance with almost no headlights was filled with unknown dangers. Just as we were discussing whether we were lost, a faint light finally appeared in the distance. It was the light of a gas station, flickering along. At this point, it was almost midnight, and everything around seemed unusually quiet. The lights of the gas station flickered faintly in the night sky, like an island floating on the dead road. It's a gas station. We can stop now, I sighed in relief, pointing to the front. My mood certainly relaxed a lot, and although the lights seemed to be flickering, at least we found a place to stop and refuel temporarily. We drove to the gas station. The lights were flashing, but we didn't think much about it. When the car came to a stop, I turned off the engine and got out of the car. My friend was a little uneasy, but he looked at the gas gauge and knew that the fuel was bottoming out, so he had to follow me out. As I stepped out of the car, a cold wind blew in, carrying a rotten smell. He shivered. The exterior of the gas station was very shabby, and it was obvious that it had been abandoned for a long time. The shabby signs hung high in the air, surrounded by weeds, and discarded items were scattered on the ground, as if time had stopped here. The only light on cast a strange light, and the surroundings were dead silent, not even the most common insect chirping. The grass in front of the station spread wildly, and the mildew on the walls was even more disturbing. There is no sign of anger here, and the surroundings looked deserted. The friend's voice was low and uneasy. This place looks a little wrong. How can it be so quiet? Don't worry, the fuel gauge is about to bottom. Let's add some fuel and leave. I forced a smile to comfort him, but my heart was also a little uneasy. We walked to the tanker and tried to fill it up. Just as I got closer to one of the tankers, I noticed a strange phenomenon. The words "Welcome" suddenly lit up on the display screen of the refueling machine, and the handwriting was blurred and flickered. The words seemed to come from a distant place, not from this abandoned gas station. This is so strange, I said with a frown. This place is obviously abandoned. How can there be electricity all of a sudden? My friend's face began to turn pale, and he whispered to me, "We should leave. Something feels wrong here." I felt an ominous premonition that I didn't have much reaction. After all, it didn't look like it was really dangerous here. However, I couldn't explain why my heart started to speed up, and the corner of my eye kept scanning the surroundings. as if looking for something, but the surroundings were still so quiet that it was creepy. Suddenly, the surroundings became even more gloomy. Suddenly, there was a mermaid next to the gas dispenser. The sound was blurry and indistinct, as if it was someone from afar. There was no one around us. There was a sense of oppression in the air that almost made it impossible to breathe. I looked at my friend's face. His face even paler and his eyes widened, and it was obvious that he had heard the voice too. We didn't stop and walked back immediately. We hurried back to the car. But just as I was about to start the car, a blurry image suddenly appeared in the window. I turned my head and saw my friend already pointing at the window in horror. Look, Dad. His voice trembled. Startled, I immediately opened the car door and looked around. There was still no one around, except for the cacophony of the wind blowing through the battered billboards, as if mocking our sense of powerlessness. It was dark outside, and the dim yellow lights cast eerie shadows inside the gas station, as if something were constantly watching us. What is that? The friend's voice was filled with fear. I don't know, I replied nervously. We've got to get out of here. I started the car again, trying to get out quickly. The moment the car started, I pressed the gas pedal and my heart went wild. But just as we were about to leave, the car's radio suddenly started playing a deep, old song. The melody of the song was long and eerie, and unlike any song we had ever heard. It was full of a strange sense of oppression. I tried to turn off the radio, but no matter how hard I pressed it, the volume didn't decrease. Instead, it got louder and louder until it filled the entire carriage. My hands began to tremble, and sweat dripped from my forehead. Friend, just something is wrong here. The friend's face was pale, and he was obviously in complete panic. No, we have to get out of here. Fast. Just then, a face appeared in the reflection on the other side of the car window. It was a pale and twisted face, with hollow eyes and a slightly open mouth, as if whispering something. But we couldn't hear anything. The face became clearer and clearer, as if it was about to penetrate the glass. I almost collapsed, slamming on the brakes in a panic. But the car didn't move, as if it was fixed in place by some invisible force. The sound of the radio became louder, even harsh to the point of being almost unbearable, and the whole carriage seemed to be enveloped in an oppressive atmosphere. I couldn't help it any longer and turned to look at my friend, his eyes full of horror. Just as I was about to try to start the car again, the scene outside suddenly changed, and it was pitch black all around, and my vision was blurry. We no longer saw the lights of the gas station. We no longer heard the radio, and even the frost on the windows disappeared in an instant. I widened my eyes and looked around. Everything was gone. The car was still parked at the abandoned gas station, the lights flickering. The sky had begun to light up, and the scene in front of me was gradually becoming clear. But I knew that maybe none of this had happened, or maybe nothing had changed. The gas station's lights were still flashing, like some kind of lost signal, waiting for those who were lost.